She worked in silence. Every insult, every command, every cruel laugh, she swallowed them all. To them, she was just the maid. But what they didn't know was that the woman they looked down on was about to change everything. Grace Miller worked for the Hendersons, a wealthy American family who believed money could buy anything: respect, silence, even justice. "Grace, you missed a spot again," Mrs. Henderson would say with a smirk, waving her manicured hand. Grace would nod gently. "I'll fix it, They never noticed the intelligence in her eyes, the quiet strength behind her humble smile. Because long before she wore a maid's uniform, Grace had been Professor Grace Miller, a respected psychology lecturer at a small college in Ohio. Her life had been peaceful until tragedy struck. Her husband was killed by a drunk driver, a driver who worked for the Hendersons' construction company. They called it an accident. They paid off the police. And when Grace refused their money, they made sure she lost her job. 3 years later, fate brought her to their doorstep, this time, not as a professor, but as their maid. At first, she only wanted to survive. But every day in that house peeled away her forgiveness. She saw their arrogance, their lies, their cruelty toward the people who worked for them. And one night, while cleaning Mr. Henderson's study, she found something that changed everything. On the desk lay a stack of papers marked confidential federal aid allocations. She flipped through them and realized the Hendersons had been stealing government funds meant for community development. Millions of dollars gone into secret accounts. Grace's heart pounded. She knew she could lose her job or worse, but she took pictures anyway. Each night, she gathered more evidence. Documents, receipts, emails. All while serving their dinners and polishing their silverware. They thought she was invisible. But she was watching. Listening. Waiting. On New Year's Eve, the Hendersons threw a grand party. Champagne, laughter, golden chandeliers, it was a picture of success. Grace stood quietly in the corner, holding a tray of glasses, while Mrs. Henderson raised hers high. To another year of prosperity. Grace smiled faintly. Because that same night, she sealed a brown envelope filled with evidence and mailed it to the FBI. Then she waited. 2 weeks later, she was scrubbing the porch when 4 black SUVs pulled into the driveway. Federal agents stepped out and stormed the mansion. "Mr. Henderson," one said firmly, "you're under arrest for fraud and money laundering." The house exploded into chaos. Mrs. Henderson screamed, her son shouted, and Mr. Henderson insisted it was all a mistake. Grace stood by the stairs, mop in hand, silent. One of the agents turned to her. Do you work here?" "Yes," she said softly. "Then you've probably seen a lot." Grace nodded. Enough to know justice is finally awake. Mrs. Henderson's face twisted with disbelief. "You did this?" Grace looked at her calmly. "You taught me that silence protects the wicked. I finally learned to speak." The news spread across the country. Billionaire family arrested in federal fraud scheme. Their company collapsed. Their wealth vanished. Their mansion was seized. Grace never revealed herself as the whistleblower. She didn't need fame, only peace. Months later, that same mansion reopened as the Henderson Community Center, helping families recover from financial exploitation. And Grace? She ran it. When a reporter asked why she wanted the job, she said, "Because I know what it's like to lose everything to people who think they're untouchable." One evening, she walked past the mansion she once cleaned. The windows glowed with laughter, children painting, reading, learning. She smiled, whispered a quiet prayer, and kept walking. They once mocked her silence. But in the end, silence became their downfall and her redemption. Because kindness is not weakness. Silence is not surrender. And humility is not defeat. Sometimes, the hands that clean your mess are the same hands God uses to cleanse your sins.